What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the Green and Gold Green Bay Packers. A happy Tuesday to all of you watching out there. Still coming off that tough loss to the Chicago Bears, but looking forward to Week 17 against the Baltimore Ravens. If you're a returner to the channel, I welcome you back. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, turn on a notification bell, leave a comment. Been seeing those comments spike over the past couple of videos. Definitely lots of thoughts after that tough game once more against the Chicago Bears. But I'm going to start this one off talking about the defensive line. Definitely struggled in that game against Chicago. The Bears were running pretty comfortably and couldn't really get pressure on Caleb Williams, as we saw in those two passes that he had late in the game, one late in the fourth quarter and one in overtime to win it. The Packers have 13 defensive linemen on their 53-man roster now. Kind of shows the moral of the story of what this Packers defense has been. They've been super injured. You really needed to replenish, and now they have 13 of the 53 guys on their 53-man roster on the defensive line. Going to read all the names out of those 13, starting with the starters and then going from there. You look at the starting defensive line per the Packers depth chart. You have Rashawn Gary, Colby Wooden, Carl Brooks, and Kingsley Enagbare. Gary, another player, really needs to step up for Parsons. Did not have the greatest game again. He's been on that cold streak over the past 8 weeks. Really not a great game against Chicago, hoping he can find something against the Baltimore Ravens. You go behind Gary and behind Enagbare, Aaron Mosby and Lucas Van Ness are the two listed backup defensive ends. And listed backing up Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks are Jordan Riley and Warren Brinson. You go deeper into this depth chart. Backing up Mosby and Van Ness, Barron, Sorrell, and Brenton Cox Jr. are listed. And then behind Riley and Brinson are Quinton Bohanna and Nazir Stackhouse. And then the 13th name, rounding it all out, is Collin Oliver, who we're going to get to in just 1 second. But you look at these names, you got a rookie in Collin Oliver who's yet to play. You got Nazir Stackhouse, who's a rookie that's had a couple of moments in there. He wasn't even drafted. He's in this room. You got Jordan Riley, who the Packers signed off the Giants practice squad. You just got all these names from all these different places. And then you can go all the way up to, even still with the backups, Lucas Van Ness, a first-round pick for the Green Bay Packers. So definitely lots of guys from different places, different situations, different schools. You can name a lot of differences between them all, but they're all in the same group of these 13, hoping that the Packers can find a solid core and a solid, couple depth pieces to rely on, because Devontae Wyatt and Micah Parsons being out for the year are definitely two killers for Green Bay, and it was pretty evident in the loss to Chicago. But I want to get into kind of a little bit more on Collin Oliver. Hopefully we could see him on the field for the first time this season against the Baltimore Ravens. Collin Oliver was activated off the PUP list just yesterday, I believe, was the official day he was activated off of it, and hoping that we can see some positive stuff from him on the field. Something to note about Collin Oliver, though, this is kind of tough when you look at it. Really going to be hard to know what to expect for him on the field. Last season, in his final season in college playing for Oklahoma State, he played in just 2 games after he suffered a foot injury and was out for the rest of the season. And then this season, he's been out all season long as well. So the last time he played a game, college or NFL, was September 2024. So it has been a while. So we're going to take a jump back into his last full season and get into some of those numbers. Again, this is 2023, so take it with a grain of salt. I mean, a lot can change in 2 years, especially when you're going from college up to the NFL against teams like the Ravens and then the Vikings in Week 18, if he is able to play in both of those games. You look at these stats, though. This is in the 2023 season where he played 14 games. He had 73 tackles, 45 of them were solo, 6 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. So really nice stuff to see from there. Kind of a mix of everything, getting in with the sacks, but also forcing a lot of those fumbles. I believe just one of them was recovered, but still nice to see he's able to punch the ball out, get a quick jump off the line. People want to call him Mini Micah. I think that's a huge stretch, and just kind of a hope that that we can get something positive with all of these injuries on the defensive line. But pretty exciting stuff to see nonetheless. Hopefully he gets in that mix. Again, he is listed kind of as that 13th man out of all 13 on the defensive lineman room, but he could get pushed up on the depth chart if it is confirmed that he will play against the Ravens on Saturday night. But we're going to get into kind of away from the defense and more into the special teams and talk about how Rich Bisaccia these concerns grow. And I believe he is on the hottest of hot seats. Packers and special teams. I don't want to go back to that Bears game. Have to touch on it. Onside kick bobbled. Let's just start there. I mean, Packers have had special teams issues for as long as you can remember because that Packers game gave PTSD to the 2014 NFC Championship loss to the Seattle Seahawks, where special teams was an issue, even on the defensive side, allowing a fake field goal. That's in the past. I'm not even going to try to get into that. Nonetheless, Packers have always seemed to have trouble with special teams, and it seemed like Bisaccia was going to be the answer coming over from the Raiders, and the Packers still rank very low in multiple aspects of special teams. Botching that onside kick, another cherry on top on this unfortunate defense or on this unfortunate special teams unit that has been for the Green Bay Packers. And again, I know Romeo Doubs can't, or Rich Bisaccia can't really control how Romeo Doubs fields that onside kick, but it just feels like another thing wrong with the Packers special teams. And it's like, how does this keep happening? You're not going to have a deep playoff run if you can't get the little things right. I mean, we even saw last year in the playoffs, the opening kickoff against the Philadelphia Eagles was fumbled. Philadelphia got the ball and scored right away, kind of got buried down just to start that game right off the bat. Cannot have any of that happen in the playoffs this season if the Packers are able to clinch over the next week or two. We look more into the return unit, though. This is what I want to really focus on. The onside kick's one thing. We can keep talking about it, keep talking about Dobbs, but the punt return and kick return unit are some of the worst in the NFL, with all due respect. You look at some of these numbers, and actually to talk about the punting unit, I know I'm talking about the return unit, but punting in general, the Packers have not had a punt over the last two games, and they're 0-2. That's a pretty bad stat in their own. But you look at the return unit. We're going to start with the punt return unit. Packers averaging just 5.6 yards per punt return, which is second to last in the NFL. The only team worse than them are the Buffalo Bills at 5.5 yards per punt return. The longest punt return that the Packers have had this season is just 20 yards, which is 27th in the NFL. So not pretty numbers there. And you look at something, a category in the punt return unit where they're near first, tied for seventh in this one. It's the amount of punts they've returned with 26. The Packers still trying to return these punts despite massive, massive struggles. They're not settling for many fair catches. They're not letting it go, hoping it rolls into the end zone. They are still trying to return these, and I think a lot of teams know that. They're trying to kick it into a position where the Packers have to return it because it's not really pretty. You look at the current punt returner, it is Romeo Doubs. He's not really familiar with punt returning, before this season where he's had to really fill in that role. So, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. But now Romeo Doubs has a wrist injury after that botched onside kick. He was out for the rest of the game with a wrist injury. I shouldn't say hoping it's an injury, but I'm hoping that was a real injury because I know there's speculation that he kind of injured himself, that after the onside kick and the botch that he wanted to be out for the rest of the game to act like he got hurt on that. Not sure what the deal is with that. We'll definitely get more clear of a picture on Wednesday. Hoping he's good to go. Hoping it wasn't anything serious. Kind of hoping he wasn't faking an injury and that you didn't have Romeo Doubs for all of that overtime period. Nonetheless, we're talking about special teams and punt return. If Doubs is not good to go, you got Matthew Golden, you got Jaden Reed, his backups. Golden is listed first in front of Reed. I mean, Reed was the guy, but has been out for most of the season after getting that injury against the Washington Commanders. He's still kind of slowly but surely filling in more and more, and hope maybe he could be the guy in there, even if Doubs is healthy and good to go. Definitely some discussions to be had. We go to the kick returning unit. The Packers not that much better there. They've had 43 kickoffs return 20 or more yards. That is 28th in the NFL, and the Packers are just one of three teams without a kick return for 40 or more yards. The only two outside of them being the Browns and the Steelers. So the Packers, the only team in the NFC without a kick return of 40 or more yards. The Packers kick returners, Savion Williams and Bo Melton. Savion Williams have been out for a little bit, so kind of some mix up in the kick returning room. But you got a rookie in Savion Williams. You got Bo Melton, who's receiver, turned corner, turned kind of back to receiver. Now in the kick return unit, he's playing many roles. Doesn't really feel like the Packers have a guy, and I feel like this is an issue year in and year out. Go back to the punt return unit talks. Mecole Hardman was a possibility for the Packers, and he got cut pretty early into training camp. They just can't seem to find a guy, can't seem to find that success. Definitely some concerns rise heading in to the postseason if the Packers are able to clinch over these next 2 weeks. But let's talk about some positives. Talk about the postseason. You get into the playoffs. A Pro Bowl is going to happen in the midst of all of that. Let's take a look at the Pro Bowl voting for the Green Bay Packers. The results are announced today. By the time you are watching this video, the results will be out. By the time I'm recording, which is just a couple hours earlier, they're not officially out. I believe they released 1 hour ago if you're watching this premiere live. But looking at where these final votes stood before the official announcement, there are really only two things to note from this. Micah Parsons is first among defensive ends, which I want to give credit to Myles Garrett, because I thought Myles Garrett would be the clear number one, but Parsons does have more votes to be number one in that entire room. Myles Garrett is doing historical things, so got to clap it up from him. He's about to break the sack record, but nonetheless, a Green Bay Packer in first in a category. And you look at the other only possible chance of a Pro Bowler for the Packers, to be totally honest, is Jordan Love. He's seventh among all the quarterbacks and the fourth highest NFC quarterback. So an interesting thing about the Pro Bowl, if you're higher on the list, you're probably on a playoff team, especially at the quarterback position. And a lot of these guys drop out of the Pro Bowl, giving guys that are tad lower on the list that edge in an official Pro Bowl selection. So I believe each side picks just 3 quarterbacks. The Pro Bowl seems to change it every year, but I believe 3 NFC quarterbacks get it. So right now, Jordan Love sits in fourth. Matthew Stafford, Caleb Williams, and Dak Prescott are ahead of him. But if one of those 3 drop out, which, it's likely, even if the Rams don't make a push all the way to Super Bowl with Stafford being older, usually guys like that tend to drop out. Could be an opportunity for Jordan Love to get his first Pro Bowl selection, but not many other names outside of those 2 really high on the list. Evan Williams was kind of in there, also in a possible special teams position. Daniel Whelan was fourth, I believe, among all punters. So, there's some names in there for the Packers, but it really seemed like Jordan Love and it seemed like Micah Parsons were the 2 guys that should be in the Pro Bowl based on how the voting is. Micah Parsons is really the only clear Pro Bowl pick for the Green Bay Packers, which, unfortunately he will not be able to participate in it as his season has come to an end with that ACL injury. But you can check it out for yourselves. Again, as you're watching this, it would already have been announced. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully there's some shakeup outside of what the final results were before voting closed down and the final numbers were adjusted to. But hopefully the Green Bay Packers get more than just Micah Parsons. And again, with guys dropping out, some Packers could get in there. Even if they drop out themselves, it's still an opportunity for these guys to get a Pro Bowl selection. But that's all I got for this video of Packers latest. We're going to keep monitoring injuries throughout the week with practice ramping up on Wednesday. It's another quick week. It's truly a 7-day week, but the Packers don't get an extra day. They're playing on a Saturday once more at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Lots to look forward to in that one. But as always, go Pack, go.